Alright, welcome back to the channel. This is lesson number 5 in the motorcycle traffic management series. Today we'll be looking at some of the odd things you're going to encounter sooner or later out there on the road. So let's gear up and head on out, see what we see. Well, alright, here we go. It's a nice sunny Southern California day. Perfect day for riding a motorcycle, that's for sure. So I want to start out with something I call speed differential. And before I even say that, I want to say that I used to have a friend who was, before I started riding a motorcycle, he had put in thousands of miles on his motorcycle and was telling me that anything that ever happened to him, it was always his fault. He always blamed himself. He didn't look to blame anyone else for any of his mistakes. And when I started riding, I adopted the same philosophy. I don't blame anybody for what for any kind of mistakes that I made. I just have to accept that, I'm at fault. I'm the one that's responsible for my own actions. Which brings me to the speed differential. They used to say that the speed kills. Well, that's not exactly true in my mind. Speed differential is what kills. You're going 80 in a 30 mile an hour zone. That's speed differential, and that can get you killed. The reason is you have to think of in terms of the cars that are on the road. If you're doing 80 or some extreme speed in a residential area or a surface street somewhere, the cars that might be coming out from the side or possibly head on towards you that want to make a left-hand turn crossing over you, these cars, their heads are really not geared into realizing the type of speed differential that you have over them. There's a high likelihood somebody's going to do something there that could directly impact you. So, take responsibility for yourself, but ride responsibly. Do things that make sense to the motoring public. Next thing I want to go over something I call lights and sirens. Obviously this is emergency vehicles. So I divide this into two different categories. One is the type of siren. You're riding along in a motorcycle, a beautiful day just like this, and you hear a siren in the background, just like, hey, we just passed up a fire engine there. Hey, he could have had his siren on. He didn't in this case, but when it happens, if it's in a distance, like I say in this first case, just listen. Try to figure out, where this is coming from, and keep your ear tuned to it until it either crosses your path, go past you, or just fades into the distance. The second one is the most dangerous one, and this is when an emergency vehicle comes up to an intersection. And then all of a sudden just blasts on their horn, siren, whatever it is they're using. I think this is very dangerous. Should be very bad policy for the emergency responders as well. So what happens is when you get in a situation like this, there's sort of an instant panic that happens. The motoring public is going to they're going to go into emergency evasion tactics. They're going to hit the brakes, try to figure out what's going on. And while all this is going on, your biggest fear right now is you're going to be hit from behind. So the first thing you've got to do when this situation arises, whether you can see the emergency vehicle or not, because you may not be able to, depending upon the traffic and buildings or whatever, first thing you got to do is check your rear view mirrors. You've got to be looking for what's coming up behind you, because again, your biggest risk here is getting hit from behind. After you've done that, you've got to keep listening, for the emergency vehicle to try and get a better grip on where it's at. While you're doing that, you've also got to look ahead. You've got to figure out, if you can, if there's enough time, what cars ahead of you or on the sides of you can act as a blocker or a bodyguard for you to protect you, mainly from the cars coming from your behind. So that's the main thing. Keep an eye on those mirrors, watch the cars from behind, and then be ready to take evasive emergency action as soon as you see something that you don't like. The next thing is, everybody says, you hear this all the time, whether you're in a car or a motorcycle, and that is following too closely, or don't follow too closely. The reason is that, if you're following too closely in a car, say two cars, one's following too closely, there's a piece of steel in the road, the first car doesn't see it, they swerve at the last minute to miss it, and there you are. There's not enough reaction time, and you do some serious damage to your car. Or maybe even have a wreck. Now, imagine that instead of a car, which can absorb that debris, the impact subsequent to the debris, now it's just you. There's nothing to absorb that but you and your motorcycle. So it's doubly, or maybe even more than doubly, dangerous for a motorcycle when it comes to following too closely. You just don't do it. It's a big mistake. You don't need to. I've known people that in cars, it was like a compulsion to ride too close to the car in front of them. I never really could understand that. The next one is something that you're not going to run into probably right away. And it has to do mainly with lane splitting. When you're out there, you may not be the only one lane splitting. There could be other motorcycles. So you've got to be looking in the rear view mirror for any motorcycles that might be coming up behind you that are doing the same thing that you're either doing or want to do, and that's lane splitting. So whenever you're either getting ready to go into the lane split between the cars, check those rearview mirrors. That's real important. You've got to check the mirrors to see if there's any other motorcycles coming up behind you. And believe me, just in the last year or so, I've run across this situation a couple of times. In fact, for me, some of the most worrisome things out on the road are other motorcycles. It's not that I don't trust them, but they can do things that you can do, and so you've got to be careful that you don't do these things at the same time they're doing that. The next thing is, well, I'm going to have to, the next thing actually has to do with making an internal lane, being an internal lane. It's a little hard to describe, though. It's something that I'm going to actually have to demonstrate, provided I can actually find that situation. So I'll be looking for it and let you know. But until I do, there's something else that could be very useful to you and your family going forward, and that is cameras. When I ride, I always use a camera on a motorcycle. And obviously, in order to do this that you're watching, I had to use my camera. Okay. But beyond that, I use camera all the time. And the reason is that should anything bad happen, I'll have a visual record of it. Because when it comes to either the insurance companies or the courts, this could mean a lot of money to you if you're still alive, and to your heirs if you didn't make it. So I recommend using the camera. I do that. I use the camera. Basically, you're looking at like a GoPro or Insta 360. I have an Insta 360 Ace Pro 2, and works real well. I like that. In fact, this particular camera I can use without having to stick the thing. It has Bluetooth, so I don't have to stick the thing on the front of the helmet in order to get it to to record, to hear what I'm saying. So I do recommend using a camera. Should that unlikely event ever happen in which you're involved in some kind of a run-in with a car, you'll have documented proof. And there's no better proof, in my opinion, than that camera should you need it. So anyway, now we're going to head on to the last item that I wanted to cover on this, and that is the left turn. my left turn, your left turn. So let's go look for that, and as soon as I find it, we'll be back. Well, here is that situation that I was talking about. This is unfortunately not as clear as I would like it to be, but hopefully you will get the point here. So here you are. You're now in a left-hand turn lane, whether it's a single or a double. If it's a double like this is, you're even better protected, especially if you're on the inside here. In this case, you'd probably be better off to be on the outside. The reason is, when those cars that are across the street from you there, when they get their green light and start to come across, most of the cars are going to, take a wide curve and go around the way that they should be. But there's other riders that are going to want to cut that into a straight line. When they do, they could be coming towards you. So what I do is, if I'm on the, let's say I'm in this Z4 in front of us here, if I'm that car, then what I want to do is back away from the limit line and be as far positioned over to the right side as I possibly can. And that way I give some space over there for the people that like the straight lines. We've got another example here of how I would take this left-hand turn, and this is the why. I'm going to pull up not next to the line and over to the right. The reason is that the cars that are stopped across the way there, waiting for their light to turn left, they're going to come across there, and when they do, this is a situation where I think you really have to hang back. Well, they didn't go this time, so we'll just have to take my word for it. Well, I hope that you got something out of this, and until the next ride, keep the shiny side up and the two wheels down, and we'll see you in the next one. So long.